All right, we're live. Welcome to Joshua Kemble's live stream 24. This is the live stream where I work on my comic, Two Stories, which is out from Marcosia, the first issue, the first book, book one. And you can get this lovely hand lettered and hand inked illustrated book. It's 122 pages of beautiful artwork, I hope. That is a confessional graphic memoir that grapples with questions of faith, mental illness, depravity, and ultimately redemption in a fallen world. So yeah, go pick that up. I worked on that, and what I'm working on right now is book 2. I'm working on the roughs and thumbnails, and it is really early in the morning. It's almost 2 in the morning, and I need to catch up. So I'm planning on trying to do a page. I'm also doing the 100 Days of Making Comics challenge, and today is day 48 of the challenge. And that's a challenge where you spend 30 minutes a day minimum working on your own personal comic project. And I'm shooting for it's been about 4 hours a day, 3 to 4 hours a day, maybe 2 hours sometimes for me. So that's where I'm at. And right now I'm working on thumbnails for page 97 of my script. And so I'll show you where I'm at on my script. Here's the page I'm currently thumbnailing. I'm right about here on the script, like way down there. So that's what I'm going to be working on tonight. Next page goes on to the next chapter, which I'm really excited about. So we're almost through chapter 9. And I'm actually pretty excited because chapter 10, I believe, is the last. Let me double check. I think it's the last chapter of the book. No, chapter 11. But chapter 10 is like the conclusion. And then chapter 11 is like the resolution after the conclusion. So I'm pretty excited about that because this is a pretty hefty book. And it's right on schedule, sort of. So we're making progress. We're getting closer to that big old impressive 100-page mark. Now keep in mind these are thumbnails and roughs, and so they're not final. And I'm joined by Jake Twister. How's it going, Jake? How you doing, man? How's your comic coming? Jake shared some art he was working on the last stream, and it was super cool to see. It was like an explosion, an exploding car. It was really beautifully done. So hey, Jake, how you doing? What are you working on? And yeah, so that pretty much gets us up to date. And now I got to carve away at this page, and I'm hoping to do so relatively quickly because it's pretty early in the morning, and maybe talk about some things on my mind. These streams have been pretty fun to do. I've had some pretty cool, awesome friends stop by in the chats, and it's always fun. Corey, feel free to hop on. It's like 2 in the morning though. If you've got work or something in the morning, don't feel compliant. yeah, that's what I was thinking. Oh, got it. Corey can't. He's sketching client work. That makes sense too. But anyhow, you're always welcome if you want to come on. Nice. Jake was saying worked for an hour now, felt unmotivated, and turned on to watch here. Well, hopefully I can get you motivated. Here's something to get you motivated, Jake. I started this a while ago, like these thumbnails, and now I'm on page 97. Keep in mind that that's one little battle that I'm almost complete with of the whole process of creating this book. And these by far aren't finals. But I'm just saying, carve at your stuff. It adds up, and then you end up with books. It's crazy. It's weird how that happens. This one took 5 years though. A little over 5 years, I think. hopefully this next one will not take that long, but let's hope we can get you motivated to work on stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna basically get into the beat of this. And then yesterday we did an IRS show. Wait, was that yesterday? I can't remember. I know we did the IRS show recently. Yes, it was. It was kind of yesterday. What was throwing me off is it's Wednesday, technically, but in my head it's still Tuesday. But yeah, so on Monday we did a really good indie review show with Corey, and I was pretty excited about it. We went through Further Grickle by Graham Annabelle, who's an artist I really dig, and I hope I made the case for why he's worth checking out. But check it out on irsagency.com. That's the indie review show site, and watch the video and let me know. Did I make the case? Did I make him interesting to you? Not that he needs it. He's a pretty popular cartoonist, but still, I hope I got some new people into his work. So, okay. Here we go. Let's get into this. So what I do when I'm working on these thumbnails, and you guys might, if you follow this thing, you might be sick of this spiel, but I always want to explain what I'm doing as I'm doing it. It's like an old teacher habit. Actually, that's a funny thing. Corey, do you have that like left over from being a teacher where it's like anything you do on the screen, you want to be like, and this is what I'm doing now. Okay, so the reason I do this is to divide up the previous panels because I'm basically pulling from a 9-panel grid for my underlying structure for this book, which is a pretty easy structure. But I like to think I kind of break outside of the box when I'm able and when it suits the story. But what this helps me do is keep track of the story beats from the previous page. And there it is. Corey was saying he says keystrokes out loud. Yeah, totally. Where you're just like Command Z, Command S, Command Alt Shift. Okay. All right. So, yeah, one thing that's nice is I always had a weakness with the keystrokes because I had them so programmed that I'd have to like stop and look. Like I'd have to stop and slow down and look at what I was pressing to tell students. So I'm like, I kind of forget. I just do. Anyhow, that's smart. I love that. Corey said his students trained him by calling him out when he doesn't. So it always comes out loud now. That's awesome. That's a smart way to kind of condition yourself to it. I think had I done teaching for a couple more years, and I may go back to that at some point in my life, like at a college level, if there's ever like a 10-year position close by, and after I've art directed for a while, depending, because I do like art direction, but yeah, that might be something. But if I ever do, I might borrow that technique because that's pretty smart. All right, Command plus as I zoom in. I'm going to start trying to do keystrokes now just because Corey mentioned that. All right, so here we go. Okay, so the last part of this was basically like our crazy neighbor. Here, I'll illustrate this part. Our crazy neighbor right here, that lovely arrow, is being escorted by police officers because he finally, like, we went to detectives, explained that he had held me hostage and that we were nervous for our lives and that he wouldn't let me leave and all this fun stuff, which is in the story, which you can actually check out so far, like obviously in super rough thumbnail fashion on my Instagram, Joshua Kemble on Instagram. But then we finally have this panel where we're now moving on the suggestion. We felt like, should we move? Is that an overreaction? And the detective was like, no, you should move. Like, this guy's a lunatic. We can only hold him in jail for 2 days. So you should probably do it before he gets out again. So that's what we heard. And now we're basically at this point, we're packing up our apartment. And I just showed that with boxes. And now we're going to talk about other stuff. Dude, Ronnie, how you doing, man? You are catching me live at like a ridiculous hour for me. It's like 2 a.m. here. But I'm hoping to get some comics done. How are you doing, man? How's your comic coming? All right, so let's get into this business. Jake is working on a really cool comic. It's got a lot of car chases in it, from what it sounds like, and that sounds super fun to draw. And then Ronnie of Crimson Owl Comics is working on a comic that kind of flashes point between the 1800s and the 1980s, I think. So it's 1880s and 1980s, and it's like a sort of like, from what it sounds like a kind of like a revenge haunting horror comic. But it's got like a Victorian era building in it, and some really cool transitioning between color and black and white. I'm pretty excited about it. I can't wait to see more of it. And then, of course, Corey in the chats is working on awesome animations as usual. He is wrapping up an animation that you can check out on Breaking the Chains. Ooh, I think Ronnie might be sharing some more special tips from his comics. So I'm going to pull up that. This must be a character. And what's rad is like this costuming is pretty cool. So here's his. Here, I'm going to pull it up. Sorry, I just dragged it into Photoshop just to show, but that's pretty cool, Ronnie. That is pretty cool. I also like those glasses. It's funny. So I'm friends with David Chelsea. He's like this dude, really brilliant cartoonist. And I've had him like interviewed on Artcasters, which is the show I do with Scott Zirkland, and where we like, talk about the ins and outs of cartooning and graphic design and stuff. And we'll have guests on. And I've had David Chelsea on a bunch to talk about, like, of course, perspective, because he's like one of the masters of perspective. But what's funny is this villain, or is he a villain? I need to know, Ronnie. But what's funny is this character looks a crapload like David Chelsea. I might have to show David, just because he even has a meme on his Facebook will post pictures of guys with glasses that kind of look a little bit like him. So, but if David Chelsea were like a Victorian guy with a cool curly mustache, that's really cool. That's nicely done. I like the textures you're throwing on there too. So thanks for sharing that, man. Corey said, wrapped his part on Breaking the Chains. Now it's up to Jim. Moving on to the music video in the style of the Gorillaz. Ah, yes. I'm excited about the music video thing, man. That's pretty cool. Is that the client one you're talking about, Corey, that you're carving away at? Corey is also going to be working on his comic, which I'm excited about. And I just realized it's like so early in the morning that I said working instead of working, which sounds pretty funny to add a Y in that statement. Okay, so here we go. This panel is going to say, this is going to get into the families helping us out in our move. Which, by the way, the older I get, like, the less likely I am to help somebody move. I feel like as a kid, like when you're a young man in like your early 20s or even early 30s, it's strange that I'm now so old that 30s seems like a young man. But anyhow, you'd like help people move all the time, especially in your 20s, because people are moving from apartment to apartment and stuff like that. So as long as a friend like provides like a case of beer or something, you're like, sweet, let's do this. Now I'm like, I don't know, man. I mean, I've done it, but very rarely. Luckily, people I know move like less frequently, but if somebody wants me to help them move nowadays, it's a big ask because I'm also at that age where like you feel it, like if you help somebody move um, a lot more, which actually gets into a little bit of why I started so late today. I got home, was pretty exhausted from kind of a crazy day at work. Not a bad day, just a very busy day where it's like a lot of brain power going. And so when I got home, I just, crashed. Woke up, hung out with my kid, read stories together after playing our Lego game. Remind me to get into our Lego game in a second after I write this part. Um, Let me write this part. Oh, yeah. So, anyhow, I also realized that I had skipped a day of working out. Um, and so I was like, okay, I got to catch up for my day of working out, which anyone who's built a habit of working out knows if you miss a day, that's when it hurts. Like you miss, at least for me, if I miss one day, I pay for it the next day with pain. um, so anyhow, I did that, and then once again was just so wiped after that. I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a nap, wake up at an ungodly time, like 2 in the morning, and start working. That brings us to here. Okay, I need to talk about our. Oh, Corey was saying the song is a fun one too. The song that he's working on. See that I could understand not being able to chat during too, because you probably need to listen to the music to figure out the beats, and that would be really hard to do during a live stream. All right, so let's get this going. So it's supposed to say, with the help of family and friends who drove a long distance, missed the day after leg. Totally. And you self-impose a kneecap, and that's totally true. That's exactly how I feel about it. And it's like I'm not a guy who grew up working out or was athletic at all. So for me, just building the habit to do exercise like every other day, just like clockwork, took like years to kind of just get programmed. And now I like it, but yeah, it's brutal. People who say they enjoy working out weird me out a bit too because I don't enjoy it. I enjoy after it, and I enjoy sort of. Well, I enjoy. I guess I kind of enjoy part of it, but it's mostly just terrible doing. Um, but the way you feel after is great. So it's like a give and take. But I enjoy it way less if I miss a day. It's kind of similar with comics. Okay, let me write down this text, and then we're gonna get into talking about the epic Lego game that my son and I have started. Okay, with wait a second. This is actually going to start with a dot 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 with the help of our families and friends. So here it's going to need to be kind of some shots of just help. I think I might call back to a shot. Like there's actually a shot. I have to go back through all the stuff the previous pages, but there should be a shot that I've drawn like probably back in the 70s pages where it's about us moving into the apartment complex. Maybe it's in the 60s. Ooh, going like back quite a few pages. Back in time. 50s. It's in the 50s pages. All right, here we go. Maybe it's, I think it might actually predate the 50s, kind of going through all the previous pages. Okay, 50. Nope, 51. 52. There it is. Okay, I'm pulling up page 53, which had this lovely shot of us moving in. And this is something I like to do in comics. And you can actually see this done a lot in that Further Grickle book that Corey and I reviewed on the Indie Review Show. But it's basically like a trick that I like to do. You can kind of take previous shots and almost sample them. So previous backgrounds, previous frames to kind of sample so that it's like a callback to a person that you don't have to like literally show or say. It just, I think, subconsciously makes people remember. In this case, it would be a little nice to do since there's little connections you want to make. At least I try to make when I'm doing a story where you start tying threads from earlier parts of the story. It helps the story feel more cohesive. So it's kind of equivalent to like Star Wars does this all the time. And I'm going to blow when. But it's like you'll have this shot of Luke in episode 4, right? Where like A New Hope, where he is looking out at the sky and he's looking out at the two moons, and it's like this very beautiful silhouette shot. And then that shot is like called to and reflected and juxtaposed with all the following work, as well as like later parts of that story. So you end up with a lot of like these beautiful exchanges, but it also gives a sense of like a cohesive whole to like sort of. So in the case of like if you're telling a story where somebody moves in somewhere, it makes rational sense to kind of reflect the panel when they move out of there. So yeah, I'm rambling, but that's what I'm doing here. So I'm going to do this, but this is going to be, maybe this can be friends. So make this be friends. I think that would actually make sense. So rather than being my wife and I, this will be friends of ours that are now moving the other way. Doing visual callbacks on an earlier event shows good reflection on transformation and change between those points, right? That was Jake. You worded that better than I did. But yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. Kind of creates like a sense of cohesion and closure. So, okay. This is going to be my buddy Josh. I know it sounds weird that I'm saying my buddy Josh. My name's Josh. But one of my good buddies, one of my best buds names is Josh. And he did help quite often with moves, especially in this case. He usually, I think around this time, would have worn aviator sunglasses. So I'm going to kind of do that. Give him some aviators. Thumbnails. The nice thing about a thumbnail, you don't have to worry too much. It's a bigger guy. All right, here we go. Just working this all out, working it out. But I'm really excited about being on 97. I don't know. I feel like it's a justifiable thing to be happy about. It is weird how these things work like a turtle, though, where you're like, you're just kind of carving and you just show up and you show up. And then before you know it, you have some pages under your belt. I love that. Yeah, the Shire isn't the same through the eyes of the hobbits who left the burrows and came back. That's a very good example, too. And seeing that kind of change in the hero's journey is kind of a good thing. This is a slice of life version of leaving Mordor. I'm kind of kidding, kind of not. All right, so oh yeah, so my son's game, and it has been really cool. We have this whole game with there's this he has a Dumbledore Lego, and I use him as this like powerful wizard who is like the most powerful Lego, and he's casting all these wizard spells and constantly trying to send people on quests. And so my son has like Minecraft Legos and these other Legos, and I've used this wizard to unify his Lego characters and have a group, a small group, kind of like volunteer to go on like these different quests. Um, so my son has like a pizza truck. It's like a little food truck Lego. And so one of the wizard quests, like the wizard ordered food from the food truck and had a taste of pizza, and he got so obsessed with pizza that he wanted to send people on a quest for him to seek out pizza so that he could eternally eat pizza and french fries. And so it was like this really crazy epic battle where there were bad guy meetings. The bad guys all met and had like a powwow to kind of work out how they were gonna, because they kind of figured out like there's this very powerful wizard that's like super into pizza, and we can stop him by like basically now that we know his weakness is pizza and French fries. Let's combine our bad guy powers. But anyhow, so they were trying to hold like a bad guy meeting and discuss this, and um, because the meeting just went so long, and then they were debating whether one of the bad guys could kind of attend the meeting because he was like a giant snake, and they were like, "We just don't have room for you here, man." And then they had trouble with like their bad guy meeting roll call. They're kind of trying to get organized to like plan their thing against the wizard. So anyhow, so then the wizard ended up sneaking in on their meeting and kind of figuring out what their plot was. And he would have stopped them, but he already assembled this whole team for a quest. So he was like, I gotta let them fulfill their quest. And that's just a little sampling of the game I've been playing with my son for the last 2 days with this crazy wizard. He's got a crazy British accent. It makes me want to write fantasy. I think maybe the next one of these that I do will be writing fantasy novels. Trying to think of who else to include here. I got it. It's going to be my friend Brandon. Because he was there too during this time. So, anyhow. Sauron with the shotgun. Heck yeah. I like that. Yeah, that would be amazing. It would be fun though. To all I'm saying is like I do enjoy a slice of life, but I have to say 2 books of this, and I might need a break from slice of life for a little bit. Although I really am enjoying doing slice of life, but it would be fun to do like a pizza wizard story where a very powerful wizard gets like super addicted to pizza. I don't know. This also could be like tired at 2 a.m. thinking. Oh my goodness, I'm still on the first panel. Okay, I'm gonna up my game here. So this is just gonna be. He is gonna be working on carrying this craziness. And we're just thumbnailing. Plaid shirt. My buddy at the time did wear a lot of plaid shirts. That actually works. All right, and we're gonna have this going on and that. Cool. Now I just have to do this, but that'll be first part of this page. I'm very stoked that I'm close to the end of chapter 10 too. So the one thing I haven't been thumbnailing out, what's funny is when it comes to the final, this will be way further, well, not way further, but like 4 or 5 pages longer than 97. Because I haven't been including the chapter title pages, because I do break the story into sequences of like chapter title pages. Hopefully that makes sense. But this is chapter 9 that I'm working on, and I have it kind of mapped out. So, all right, panel 1 knocked out. Touching on what you said about getting 2 stories out after a 5-year period, Lars Martinson spent 13 years on Tanaharu, something special when pulling effort into something for a long period. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. Yeah, there's one of my favorite artists is this guy Jason Lutz, and he did this like masterful graphic novel of, that's sort of takes place in the early stages, like pre-World War II, in Germany, and it kind of has like all these characters across the political spectrum with different ideologies and different communities and stuff like that, and it follows like 5 characters throughout the whole upheaval and then the rise of like fascism in their country, and it's like super accurate historically and crazy and just this beautiful example of historical fiction, but with tons of research and factual events and stuff, and like details down to the like the street lights, like how they were run back then, where they had like a little booth where somebody would like pull a lever to like change it from green to red, and just crazy amounts of detail. And he spent, I think, 15 to 20 something years on it, because I think he started it in like the 90s. So maybe that was 20 years. Maybe it's 25 years. I can't remember. I need to look into it. But it's a very long, epic book, and this will by no means be that good. But the hope is, with the investment of time, I'll be finishing something. Oh, dude, Jake, you knew it. 22 years. Yeah. And that thing is just like, I just can't even imagine making something that good. But what's weird is I am really proud of my first book. in this series, and I do think I'm on the verge of making something pretty darn good and worth the investment. So yeah, that's kind of the thinking. But it's weird how it happens, because even those 5 years, like how it happened was just showing up and carving. There's something to be said for just showing up and carving away. How's it going, Inkwell? How you doing, man? We're all hanging out working on art. I was about to work on panel 2 for my thumbnails. But how are you? How are you doing? What are you working on, Inkwell? So yeah, okay, so I reflected. Oof, that was lovely. I'm just gonna draw panel borders like this now. I'm just kidding. There are some cartoonists I know who really dislike having ruled panel borders. Like they feel like it kind of pulls away from the vibe of the story, and so they'll have like panel borders that are almost ruled, but it'll be more freehand, so you see a little variation. That's pretty cool. I might do that at some point. All right, doing well and doodling. That's pretty awesome. What you doodling? I'm gonna get to writing this next chunk. Here we go. With the help of our families and friends, which I had on this last one. Okay. Who drove a long distance? So I'm curious, like what time it is where all of you are at, because I know we're at different states, different areas of the country, sometimes different countries. Just kind of curious what time it is for you guys. Here, where I am, it's about 2 a.m. in California. I'm curious what your guys' time is like. I also know there's like some crazy power outages going on in like certain parts of the country. Nice. Inkwell doing the night owl thing. Crimson Owl doing the crazy morning thing. Um, all right. It's interesting. So 2, Inkwell, you're definitely on the Pacific time. That's about my time too. So, who drove a long way? Long distance. That was me just inserting a word into the script that isn't there. Distance. Drawing faces and hands. That's good. Man, faces and hands are a good thing to constantly practice. Have sketchbooks full of those. And what's interesting is that like faces in particular for me never get boring to study. I think if I had the time, right, like once again, whenever 4 years from now, 2 years from now, whenever I'm done with this second book, the second book 2 of quarterly or 2 stories. I was about to say quarterly stories because that's what I was calling it when I was just putting it online before it was published. But yeah, while working on this second 2 stories book, I'm like definitely really into it. But I do look forward to a time whenever I'm wrapped on it where I can just sketch some faces or like I don't know, like work on some portraits and maybe do some life drawing. Life drawing is so fun. But I do feel like right now I'm in that point of needing to be the slow and steady racer who is like kind of continually showing up and carving away. I think some of it's perspective with art. I'm kind of curious what you guys will think. Bagging up face masks for associates. Huh. Nice. I'm not sure what that means. I was trying to figure out what that means. Associates. I don't know. You have to explain to me what that means. Are you giving face masks to people? I don't know. Please explain that, Ronnie. I'm sorry. I don't really understand. Um, okay, so about 4 hours to be there, and we're going to get into it here. What is this going to be? The help of families and friends who drove a long distance. So this is one of those ones where it's going to be challenging to keep this interesting. And I know the next thing is going to mention a U-Haul. Okay. Okay, I have an idea. I'm going to do something like where it's like a U-Haul truck here, but I want to look up the back of a U-Haul truck. Got it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I'm a health ambassador taking associates' temperatures and giving them face masks if they're sick or might have a COVID-19. Make sure they get paid while homesick. That's awesome. That's actually super cool, man. Sounds like a hard gig though. Like, have you experienced a lot of people getting COVID like at your work, or like as a health ambassador? So I would just imagine that's got to be a rough thing to be seeing right now. But maybe it's not hit as bad there as it is in California. Let me know. But that actually sounds like work that might require some bravery. So good on you, dude. Um, let's see here. So 4 hours to be there. Okay, what was I doing? I was looking up a U-Haul. And it's gonna be like, oh, perfect. So I'm gonna basically grab this. This is perfect. I just found a reference that I'm gonna use for this quick sketch. But it's not gonna be bad. There we go. All right. So I just wanted to see a little bit of the back of a U-Haul truck real quick. Yeah, Ronnie, that sounds like pretty awesome work you're doing, man. Okay. So I don't want to draw the full truck because the next one is going to be talking about a U-Haul truck, and I'm thinking it might actually kind of continue into the next panel. So what I'm going to do here is just sort of have semblance of the U-Haul truck. I'm going to have this be kind of the place where it's like the platform. Going to have the good old, like, anybody who's moved in these things knows, like, you have the especially if you have friends, you have the guys loading the truck, you have the guys kind of assembly line style, bringing the furniture boxes and stuff in. So that's kind of what I'm doing here, is like kind of figuring that out. Okay, but I might have to have that be a little more. Okay, and then this might be someone loading, but I don't want them to be the focus, right? I just kind of want this to almost be cut off of the page because it's going to have some significance later on. I might also just do like the weird, maybe that's like the top of an upside down chair or something. Okay. And then this will be a friend handing it, kind of handing it up. And actually, I should have them higher because it's not, U-Hauls aren't that tall. So it's going to be him kind of here working through that. Oh my gosh, no. Oh, great. Photoshop just glitched out and force quit. I have noticed that Photoshop is glitchy as hell since going to the CC thing. I mean, that's something I've noticed, but yep, and I lost that whole thing. Okay, well, that's okay. I wasn't that far. I usually hit Command S. Call back to Corey's thing about doing shortcuts. So now I got like the Photoshop warning. Yeah, I don't know what it is about. All right, so we got to start over on that, but that's okay. So the Photoshop warning. Oh, is this even showing to you guys? I just realized it's not showing. I got to refresh it. Hold on. There we go. That's after the loss. Loss of stuff. Oh, cool. Okay, so let's see. Ronnie was telling a little more. Some people have been out for a month. I'm in Florida, so it's bad here. Yeah, dude, I've heard bad things. It's been kind of just a crazy time we're living in, huh? Just a like very surreal, strange era of time. Not that that's a profound thing to say, but it's interesting writing about like my book is writing about events very far before COVID. So there's that too. I almost wonder. I know it's weird, but it's like as somebody who likes writing autobio, um, there's just so much interesting stuff that could be used for material for like what we're going through right now. Um, just crazy, crazy times, really. But what's weird is if you wrote like a memoir right now that took place in this day and age, like in like 10 years, will anyone believe it? It's just so nuts. Um, People might just start pretending it never happened or something, just because it's so insane. It's been a very difficult year, I think, for a lot of people. Um, but I mean, it could make for some really interesting stories. It's given me a perspective on like if I were to write like a post-apocalyptic thing or whatever, like it gives you a kind of perspective on how human beings would behave. That's pretty interesting. Okay, so here we go. We got this great truck going on here. Okay, and let's try this again with there's some boxes. I have some boxes going on. You know what I'll do? Just because I was in the zone on the last version of this, but now that it's kind of I have to restart it. I might just do an old animator's trick where I'm gonna draw like kind of some of the background first. So get that background worked out, and then I'll draw the characters on a sheet over it, like a layer over it, so that so that I'll be able to kind of make that work. So this is going to be, I think, those apartments that are kind of on stilts, weirdly enough. So kind of work that. At least I can get this sort of roughly worked out. There's a, yep. Kind of very loosely working out the kind of details here of like what this is going to look like. Wait a second. Horizon. Okay, there you go. Got it. So I have okay, so we have like a rough apartment going on there. Here it's going to be like a little bit, you'll see just a little bit of that stilted apartment. Funny I said stilted apartment, but stairway, stairwell, yeah. Stairwells. They're kind of under this thing. All right, there we go. Other cars, because there's like a parking lot under the. Okay, so we're kind of working that out a little bit. Okay, and then this is going to be dark. Wait, let's not shade it till I have the figures. Yeah, Florida's got to be nuts with the whole thing. I think, I don't even know how human beings are navigating the time we're in right now, except we just kind of are. And it's been hard on multiple levels for a lot of people. But I have been really impressed by how resilient a lot of the people I know are, how they're kind of making it work, despite like some of them having really crazy things happening. Luckily, I haven't had anyone like super close to me get COVID yet. I have had a few friends like who've had very close family members get it, but luckily it hasn't touched us too much. But I do feel for anyone who's potentially going through just like a, whatever what we're going through. It's just a crazy time. So this is going to be that sort of I'm standing on my toes, getting this stuff done, and then this is going to be the kind of process line I was talking about, where you got your person here, do. All right, and I'm going to save so I don't lose the work. Okay, and then this is going to be a friend, another friend, carrying a very heavy load. So he's going to be like, oh no, oh, this is too much. Like, what's something crazy he could be carrying? Got it. Like a dresser. Upside down. Okay. So like a dresser. There we go. Do. Love it. It's going to be... Okay. So now that I've got my cheat in there, where I kind of drew over the background, I can kind of get rid of that under these figures so that I can start building them out a little bit more. Okay. Being a little too fragile for these thumbnails. I need to just be bold and just make it happen. Okay. So here we go. I had a teacher in art school who taught life painting, and his name was Yuji. I think he still teaches at Cal State Long Beach. Just a master painter. Like he is like, he's a legend as far as I'm concerned. He could do like a demo in like 30 seconds, well, not 30 seconds, but in about 5 minutes or 10 minutes in oil paint, with a life model, he could just work out like this perfectly framed and painted, perfectly accurate in color painting of like the model. He's one of those guys who, like, I think how he got his job initially at Cal State Long Beach was literally through a demo. I think they saw his demo and were just like, yeah, we need to hire this guy. So anyhow, really talented painter, has some really cool techniques. I learned a ton in his class, but one of the things that I loved about painting in his class was you'd be kind of like over noodling something, or like maybe spending a little too long on drawing an eye or painting an eye from like a life model. And he'd come up behind you while you're painting and go, be bold. And so I always kind of think of that when I'm being like taking too long on something. I'm like, oh, I gotta be bold. Okay, there we go. Oh, all right. And I'm a little slower today, but that makes sense. I started at like 2. No excuses, but I did start at like 2. And so it makes sense. Like my mind is kind of still waking up. So, okay, here's me grabbing this box very noodly. One thing that's funny about live streaming, when working on like this rough pencil thumbnail hybrid thing, is that people might get the impression this is what my final work looks like. And that bums me out a little bit. I mean, not really. It's like, it's kind of fun to do this, but it is one of those moments. Oh, there we go. Ronnie, it's been good having you, man. Thanks for constantly, consistently showing up in the chats. It's fun. It's fun to talk shop and hang out with you. I hope you stay safe. Stay safe, man. Stay safe out there. You're doing important work, so good luck. Yeah, that's a crazy job. Inkwell, how are your drawings going? How's your sketches going? And Jake, how's your stuff going too? I think Jake was saying he had like a block or something, or hit like a hard point without inspiration. And I get that. I've had that too. I've also had nights, and it might be like that. Maybe I'm overreading into it. It could also just be one of those scenarios of like, sometimes you just need a break. Like I actually, right after the indie review show, was gonna go straight into a stream, and I was realizing it's like late at night. I have a full day as an art director the next day, and I just don't have it in me. But that also leads to days like today where I gotta catch up at like 2 a.m. Okay, so this is gonna be Brandon. Chops. There we go. There we go. Always smiling. All right, that'll work. Getting these guys in. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's like hard to balance between, like staying inspired and getting work done, and also just like getting proper rest and having proper times to just chill and, and kind of catch up and catch your breath. That to me is always an interesting thing. Okay, so we almost have this whole section worked out. So I was gonna get into another thing, which was like I noticed this the other day because I was talking to one friend. I think it might have been on the stream. I can't remember. they were talking about how I'm relatively fast, and I feel like if you watch these streams, especially because I'm not working on like final pencils or anything, like most folks would think this guy is a relatively slow artist. But this dude thought I was kind of faster, and it's interesting because their art is really good, and so it's like one of those things of like it just dawned on me like because they're an artist that I look at often and go like, why am I not that fast? Like I don't understand how they're doing the things they do, and I'm not able to kind of keep up with it. And then what I've realized is, at least from that conversation, was like, oh, it's just one of those things of like we're all looking at each other's work and going like, how come I can't do that? You know, like that kind of thing. And when really at the end of the day, it's just like there's no real trick to it. It's just like I said, the just gotta show up and and then like you show up, you do the work, and then occasionally, eventually, you get work done. And then I meet artists that I think have some kind of trick to it, and it's like, nope, they're just having to show up, do the work. I don't know. Although I do know some guys who are really fast. It's funny, actually. My wife is a way faster artist than me for speed and accuracy when drawing, and I mean, like she's been slammed with children's book jobs the last few days, which not the last few days, like the last few months, and has been doing that on top of full time momming, and it's just like unbelievable what she's able to do with the very limited time she has. And she's always showing up and carving away and getting it done, but it's like it is one of those scenarios where my wife very well might have been able to draw my comic in like a week. She's very fast and accurate. Like she's got like that animator's kind of vibe, like skill. Anyhow, but it got me thinking about like perspectives and like, you know, I don't know. Do you guys have that at all? Like Jake Inkwell, like that whole I don't know, thing where you're like looking to other artists and going like, how do they do that? Like it's taken me long. Like how come I don't know. I sometimes get that where it like I get almost like compare and disparity, and then I realize um well, sometimes I realize like it's just there are some people who are just extraordinarily fast and good and talented. But most people it's a slog. It's a long slog. And I wonder if you guys get that at all. Um, it's something I think about. I have to remind myself of so I don't get like a lack of motivation to kind of plug away. Um, but what's cool too is like I kind of feel like the thing that'll get people through the slog of doing art and comics is really make sure you're committing to stories you want to tell, and then commit. Like tell yourself like I want to tell this story, and then once you've kind of gotten into it, just sort of commit. I don't know. I might be rambling, but I think that'll carry you through, especially on a long form. Thank you. I thought that had glitched out again. Um, yeah, especially with long form like graphic novels, it's like you're going to be invested in living with this thing for a long time. So, and there's some dudes I know that are way faster. Like I've known guys who've done, a couple 100-page graphic novels in like a year, which is insane. Um, but anyhow, to me, it just seems like startling and insane. But point being, I just think there is a common thread of like you just kind of show up you do the work. All right, so there we go. Now we're 2 panels in and we've hit that hour mark. So I am going to take a very quick break, like a 1-minute break, get a coffee refill. And then I'm going to try to power through and finish these pages. Well, not these pages, but this page. I do need to also make sure. Okay, good. I'm pretty excited about this too because I think oh yes, okay, we're finally getting to leave the apartment. What I kind of want to do too, I need to remember the workflow of this page before I take a break. And I kind of think here needs to be that. So here's going to be a shot of, it's going to be like the truck, the U-Haul truck, and it's going to be traveling. So I'm creating that Z. So it'll go from here to here, which is going to talk about moving to Portland. And I think I want to have, yeah, so I'm going to have like a road hopefully here. Okay. Pal Woa Woa. Finally, we get to leave the boat. Every Berserk fan. I love it. Okay. So I'm going to save this real quick, and then I will be right back in about 1 second. Well, not 1 second, but like 20 seconds. Just got to get a coffee refill from my mug that I bought from Jim Lujan. He has a Society 6. And then I'm going to basically be right back. So thanks everybody who's in the chats, and I'll see you guys in like 2 seconds. Okay. All right. So one of the I did an interview recently. I was lucky, like a local journalist or whatever called to talk about 2 Stories Book 1, and they were familiar with like talking to writers, like writers of books, like novelists and stuff, and they were kind of asking like what the difference between, like, what's the writing process like for a cartoonist who writes their own work. And I was kind of saying, like, imagine if you took like a sentence, like a single sentence, and it took you a week to write that sentence, or I think I might have said paragraph because sentence might be a little bit much. But I'm like, imagine if it took you a week to write a paragraph. And that's kind of comics. Okay, so I have that U-Haul to look at. I'm going to just kind of rough it out in space. U-Haul's in space. Got to kind of work this. But yeah, I thought that was kind of a, I don't know, hopefully a fairly accurate description of what it's like for us to do these things, do comics. I do kind of think it's like a, yeah, it's just like a battle through time. A battle through the ages, through time. Once upon a time, there were great cartoonists battling their way. Anyhow, so here I'm basically going to just be sketching the U-Haul. The nice thing is there's just basically a cube, right? So I'm just going to sort of rough it out. I think these things I didn't really see. I might do further research when it gets to the finals, but I didn't really see one that had like the angle I wanted. So I'm just kind of using the other one so it's a little accurate, but it doesn't need to be perfect because once again, this is roughs. U-Haul. I am actually really excited. I know it's nerdy, but it's like even a moment where I just have this moment of going like, hey, that should be like a Z. Um, I just saw an opportunity for it because all of this is pretty much just like bop, bop, and then create that vertical or diagonal line across to kind of lead the reader to the next section. So here we go. We're going to have like our truck, the top of our truck, kind of work out this, have like a little do. Might take advantage of the thing. I sent a package to Germany. Writing on the back, subconscious line going, the anvil of imagination is a burden on time. So I don't know if it's the enemy or creation itself. Yeah, I kind of feel like we're all taking on these like Sisyphean tasks, right? Where we're kind of pushing a proverbial boulder up a hill. And I definitely feel like if there's anything you get out of comics, it's definitely humbling. So yeah. And then hopefully we're looking to kind of learn like ways to be faster and kind of get these things to be more effective and our stories to be more effective. But ultimately, it's a very long, kind of arduous, like I said, Sisyphean type task. See how it kind of pans out. Okay. I just realized we're not in England. I flipped that to have as reference, and I was like, "We're not in England. The driver's not going to be there." So, okay, perfect. Super rough, super loose. That's okay. All right. So there's my U-Haul truck. It's got a very wonky, distorted perspective, but hey, that works. And it's going to say, okay. I kind of like the idea of leaving this borderless too. So I think I'm going to actually have that. Like maybe you can have something here that it might underlap or something. Yep. That is the call to make. I think this might be like some bushes. And then I think we'll have that good old Anaheim style thing. You know what? Maybe like an exit. But because I like the idea of it being kind of more free. So I don't want it to be too much detail because I want it to be able to be almost like white in the background. So that might actually be better to have that and then just kind of a entry sign. Yeah. Some kind of sign, like an entrance sign. and maybe we'll have that like yep, that might be it. Okay, have some lights or something. Buildings. Okay, this might actually work. Okay, so we're just kind of working out, like, once again, the beauty of this sort of thing is like thumbnails. Everything's kind of free, but at least you can kind of work these things out loosely to where you can do some creative stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna have it say. Now it's gonna say. I just hope I left enough space for the. Okay, I might not have. I might need even more space. Let's see. Well, we're starting to get some momentum, and I'm feeling myself getting a little looser with the drawing too, which is good because I need to. Okay. So this is going to say we rented a U-Haul packed. Then set off for Portland. Okay, this is going to be a lot of fun, actually, this whole sequence. Okay, we're getting there. Just have to add some shading and tone. So there we go. Like, this will probably be more there. Want that to just kind of black here. Black here. I think eventually I'm going to be erasing a lot of this. But I do want this to be pretty clear cut, just white. And I don't want to do a lot of full bleed pages because the aesthetic of this book is not doing full bleed. All right, so that's where we're at so far. Okay, now let's see for the next. Okay. Oh, this is going to be good. Okay. And I'm going to have. It's cliche, and what's weird is you won't really see this when heading to Portland from California because it's kind of the different direction. Like you kind of would be coming from like the Beaverton side, and this actually comes more from like the Washington side, but it's so iconic that I think it'll be good. Is it possible to get 2 stories in other ways than Amazon? Yes, it is. Let me look that up real quick. Hang on. Nicosia 2 stories. They just have a really good list on their website of the different places you can order it. So you can order 2 stories through Bookshop, Book Depository, Wordery, Barnes and Noble, Waterstones, Books, etc., and Foils. And I think in Europe, people can order it through Book Depository. The other nice thing about that book is you can request it at your local bookshop. So you can tell them, I want to get 2 stories by Joshua Kemble. And as long as it's like an indie bookstore, like I don't know if like the big chains will order it, but like a local comic shop should be able to put in an order for you for that book. So yeah, those are all the ways. I hope that answered your question. Great question, Jake, actually. Very cool. I just like directing people to Amazon. And I know like Amazon's not like the perfect company or anything like that, but people buy books from Amazon so often that as an indie author, it's very helpful for the sales rank. And unfortunately, like the sales rank kind of is determines whether people find the book or not. And most people buy books through Amazon now. So that's why I've been promoting it on Amazon. It's like a necessary evil kind of thing, just to try to get more views on it. But yeah, like I said, Book Depository, Bookshop, Barnes and Noble, Wordery, Waterstones, Books, etc., and Foils are other places where you can order the book. And it says, I usually process with PayPal for books outside my country. Nice. Yeah, I'm pretty sure those places might take PayPal. I don't know. You gotta kind of check on those sites, but I would imagine like one of them might. Um, let's see here. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna do the welcome to Portland, and this is where it's gonna get all start gearing us out of the crazy apartment story and into the present, which is the first book. So that's kind of the goal I'm trying to accomplish here. This will take us into book 1, weirdly enough, which is great because that means we're getting closer to the end of the book, which is pretty exciting. I'm excited about the next chapter too because it's going to be, like I said, the big resolution. Yeah. So, yeah, Jake. Yeah, if you end up ordering it, let me know. Kind of curious what your thoughts are on it. I think you'll enjoy it. You seem like you would. Let's see here. So we rented a U-Haul. Okay. Here we go. Heading, and this part I have to kind of let breathe. It's funny. Corey and I were talking about that difference between our tastes. When we were doing the indie review show and looking at Graham Annabelle's work, where he was noticing that the work I tend to like kind of has like a lot of breathing to it. Like it's very like paced out. And I like that kind of thing. Heading to Portland. I just made heading to way too large. Let's see here. Also, I'm going to need this to have a little more space. The nice thing is, after I'm done with these thumbnails, I can start doing the tight panel borders, and then like, so what I do after this process is like from these I have a rough idea of my panel borders and typography, so I lay that all out in Adobe Illustrator. Then I gather all the reference that I need, and I'm probably going to do that in a big batch for the entire thing. Hang on a second. And let's see. So Jake was saying, your book, I get the feeling of an Ayashike with autobio narrative. Yeah, I think weirdly enough, yeah. Yeah. It's so funny. It's kind of like, I mean, it's definitely deals with some heavy topics, but it's definitely a slice of life. And there's yeah, it's funny too, because just thinking about that, I think that like Whisper of the Heart by Miyazaki would fall into that category. And that's like my favorite Ghibli film. It's like um, I just love. I don't know what it is about slice of life that I'm constantly drawn to, but I do think it's that there can be like really deep meaning and narrative with like subtle storytelling. So okay, so here they're leaving. They're heading to Portland. I'm gonna have that U-Haul here. Do 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 do. Got my U-Haul truck. I don't even know if it says U-Haul there, but we're just gonna pretend for now that that's what it says. And then it's gonna have our truck. It's here. It's got its top kind of going on. We're gonna have like some of the details there. Got our truck front. It's got like kind of a thing. This is like the simplest thing. Whisper of the Heart, YKK, Girls Last Tour, good examples of the genre. Yeah, so Whisper of the Heart too, man. Just, but yeah, like I actually like think it's really cool. It's funny because I love American comics, and I really like American underground comics, like, but I do wish we had more of a market like there is in Japan, where they kind of have comics that are like every kind of comic, and so I feel like sometimes they'll have the weakness, and not all, but sometimes they'll have the weakness of like a very repeated style that's like the differences are very subtle. So it's kind of similar to the US in that way, where there's like a Marvel style, and there's definitely like certain house manga styles, you know. But like in the sense of like story and what who they make comics for, like I feel like they're just a million times ahead of the US. Because it's not unusual to have a I just said it's not unusual, so that makes me think of like Tom Jones. Now I want to sing It's Not Unusual. But it's not unusual like to see like all kinds of genres. So it's like you'll have like westerns and space operas and slice of life and historical fiction. And so people I think in Japan kind of treat it a little better. So this is going to get us a little bit back into our I think I need to have this move a little bit. This is going to get us back into kind of our narrative a little bit. And this is also like a throwback to the first book, because the first book has sort of a play on this sign. It's like gets into the sequence that's talking about panic disorder. And the classic Portland, Oregon sign ends up appearing, but it says panic disorder on it. So this brings us, and also the first book has a sequence on the Burnside Bridge. And anyone who's familiar with Portland, Oregon knows that like literally it's about like 5 steps that way from this Portland, Oregon sign in Old Town. Cause like literally like a little bit past like this spot, there's like, you kind of go into this little area where there's a staircase and you're on Burnside Bridge. So that ties into the story too. Miguel Mercado just said that song is now stuck in my head. I'm so sorry. But then again, I'm not really sorry because like I kind of like, I know this is terrible to admit, but I kind of love Tom Jones. I think it's like, I don't know when it was. I think it was when I was younger, like Mars Attacks came out and it just made me like fall in love with that song. That movie is so corny and like B movie. Oh, I like that. Hopefully Denpa Press and Seven Seas Entertainment can fix that. I hope so, man. I'm happy with things like what's interesting is I ended up having to go with a UK publisher because what I was making is just like so out of the box for a lot of publishers. So most of the US publishers were just like, yeah, I have no idea. But what was common when I was shopping this book around, the first one especially, was like people who were like, we really love the story, we love the art, we just have no idea what to do with it. And I think it was that same struggle where it's like we just don't know how to market indie books, and that goes for indie anything. But yeah. And then it says the U.S. Jake said the U.S. is distilled with availability in the physical market. Sadly, when it comes to manga, so many good stories that don't get to come over here. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get back to you on this because I'm gonna blank out on his name. But I think it's Tatsumi. Like Drawn and Quarterly has been putting out a lot of his work, and it's just like unbelievable. He's like a slice of life manga artist who was like one of the kind of founders of the whole style, and has like autobiography about his life and like making comics and stuff, and it's amazing. It's like so cool. And I think like for some reason it took an indie US publisher to bring that to light. But I do think like just their embracing of that stuff. Yeah, boom. Yoshiro Tatsumi. Yeah, and I'm forgetting. I think okay. So the book I'm thinking of that I liked by him was, I think it was called A Drifting Life, where it was talking about his time after World War II and the whole like founding of Gaika manga. And oh, cool, Jake, you're like a what a cool coincidence. Yeah, my mind was blown by his work. And then what's cool about it too is I think that Adrian Tomine, who's one of my favorite cartoonists, did the US translations of those books, which is like perfect. So they had him, I think he might have even lettered it. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I think he might have done the US lettering too, which is perfect because I don't think they hire cartoonists enough to translate. And that makes perfect sense to have somebody like Tomine who could like speak and translate the language, but also be able to translate the vibe, because it's like it's so important to like keep the writing of it. So yeah, anyhow, that's cool. I would love to, man. Jake, I'd love to hear more about him. I still haven't read all of his work, but I remember A Drifting Life just blowing my mind. Um, it's also cool because it gets a lot into the history. If I'm remembering it right, it's like I think the history of the manga, like the beginning of manga, where it kind of started as like these, like almost like illustrations that people would have on like a big roll of paper that they'd kind of crank and like turn, and it would have illustrations of the stories. And then from there, like the second animation came in, a lot of those guys were out of work, who were like the artists who would do these giant scrolls for like these almost like Punch and Judy show type things where they'd tell stories. Um, yeah, cool. What would you recommend other than A Drifting Life, Jake, by him? Because I'd like to know more um, about his stuff. I mean, it's just like mind blowing and cool. So that was also a cool book. Like A Drifting Life was cool too because it got into just sort of some of the struggles of the country, like during World War II as well, and the aftermath of that. It's just pretty fascinating. Let's see here. Two books I'd recommend would be Adam Kern's Manga from the Floating World to get the background on pre-modern manga. Yeah, it's interesting because my wife grew up reading manga like before manga was a thing, um, and because it's just like part of like she's second generation. Um, like my wife's half Japanese, and her mom is like first generation, so she's second generation, and and they just kind of grew, like manga was just a normal thing. That's just what you pick up. But like, she'd just have to pick it up at like markets that did exports and imports and stuff. And so she grew up like just surrounded by it. And so for her, that was like her background in comics. Whereas I was like, going to spinner racks and reading US comics. And I feel like I kind of lost out a little bit because there's some really just like amazing work there. Oh, cool. The other is City Exhibition collab with the British Museum called Manga. Ooh, dude, Jake, thank you for the wealth of knowledge. That's really cool. It's exciting. Okay, so now it's going to say heading to Portland and leaving California. Okay, this is going to say and leaving California. This is going to be one of those bookend type things. Yeah, it's funny. Even that Tatsumi book that I was talking about, like that had a pretty big impact on me because I read that before starting Two Stories. That was like one of the last books I read before starting it. And that's a good book that has similar things where it's like very paced out, methodical. It takes a long, like it allows for long windows of time. Midnight Fisherman. Ooh. Okay. I'm going to check those out. Midnight Fisherman and Goodbye. What a cool thing. Okay, so and leaving California. I gotta make and leaving smaller. And I'm feeling like I'm about at the halfway point here, which is pretty good. And it's gonna get into these, hopefully like a nice exit from the chapter. Oh wow, Jake, that's crazy. Tatsumi revitalized my love for comics in general. What a cool coincidence that I just kind of mentioned him, and like it's a guy you're like super into. That's awesome. Um, Small world after my apartment burned down. When did your apartment burn down, dude? That's insane. That sounds terrible to go through an apartment fire. I've had a few friends have that happen, and it's very difficult to kind of recover from that kind of thing because you lose so much. I can't even imagine. Okay, I'm leaving California, so let's see. I'm gonna look up. Okay. Yep, that's just gonna be this. It's funny. So now I'm gonna, just for the sake of the story, be unsequential because like I said, I'm kind of cheating a bit because it's like the way you'd enter Portland would not be from Old Town, but I want that sign. And then similarly, I'm going to be cheating a little bit with showing Portland before showing California, which doesn't make any sequential sense, but I think visually it'll make sense. I'm hoping people can make sense of that. And then all the locals can get really mad because I'm not being accurate. Not that like there's a million locals reading the book anyway, so it'll be my little sneaky bit. But there's a snaky road like this that, and it's such a contrast, like between. It's weird. It's like the second you hit Oregon from California, it just goes just absolutely green. Dude, you should. Jake was saying he should write an autobio on that. You should, man. I mean, that's compelling, and it's something people have gone through. But it's also like um, not as common. So it's like I think it's one of those things where yeah, there's so many themes you can go through with that. Just because like having lost work, especially as an artist, you know. Nice. Okay. Okay, I know Tatsumi, I know Urasawa, I know Oshimi, but I don't know if wait, Ino. I don't think I've heard of Ino Asano or Satoshi Kon. So I need to check this out. Like, I'm kind of curious now. Maybe I have. What books did um, Oshimi do? Not Oshimi, sorry. Asano do and Satoshi Kon. Like, let me know what books they did, what they're known for, because I may or may not be familiar. What's funny is my wife's probably familiar with every single one of them, because, like I said, she was, kind of grew up reading that stuff. Um, okay, so we're just gonna have this be like a nice shot of all the green, crazy hills. The beauty of there's like a I'm telling you, like if you live in California, that drive up to Oregon is like one of the prettiest things. And like I said, it's like a startling contrast. It's like literally the second you cross the borderline, it just goes to trees and green, gorgeous trees that are just stretched out. Um, and it's very lovely. Although what's funny is I don't miss like when we were there and living there, it was just like really rough with the rain. Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to check those out. I have not heard of those, and my wife probably has, and now I have something to check out. The whole fire in the apartment was an impetus for me becoming a comics creator. Okay, and then that I'm familiar with. Okay, thank you. So Khan did Paprika, Perfect Blue, Millennium Actor. Okay, so that I'm familiar with. Um, but what's cool is I'm discovering some new stuff. I'm gonna go back through this thread, and kind of note some of those to pick up and check out. Wow, so that was like the thing that made you want to tell stories, or I could see that, like a life changing moment like that, or maybe it's like, was it one of those scenarios where you were kind of sitting on doing your dream and then having like a rough event like that, like sort of was like a wake up call? Like, I'm curious how that worked out. Like, I don't know, dream fossil. Man, getting a lot of really cool tips from you, Jake. That's rad. So this is going to be, I'm actually going to just make this like and I'm going to empty the street a little bit. But that'll be kind of our focal right there. Okay. And then we're going to have some other cars, sure. Very small cars. And a couple of cars here. But I did want to make sure I have that. Okay. I'm also going to save, because I had that happen last time where, okay. And then we're going to have this kind of, yeah, okay. So what's great about like just kind of working this out is like, I also like being able to get out of a sequence where I have to be like dead on sequential, which I love for like the theme and the necessity of the storytelling. But it is always fun to be like, okay, I can have like like a cool shot that's just a landscape, and it doesn't have to be like sort of like the next shot in a sequence. Like, there's a lot of freedom coming up that I've allowed myself at this part in the story, so I'm kind of excited about that. Anyhow, this is all rough, noodly nonsense here, so let's just block it out. This is gonna be a lot of trees. I had no idea where it was going in life, and I started uni, and then the fire happened, and I hopped hotels for months. Meanwhile, while in the cellar, I was reading comics to soothe the pain, and I told myself, why can't I do this too? So now I want to pay back the people. Dude, that's a really I hope you do an autobio comic, because that sounds very cool. What a like really moving story there. That's actually kind of a good question to ask people. Like, why did they get into comics? Like, what was it? What was it that made them finally kind of sit down and do them? And that actually can lead to some really cool conversations. But wow, what a cool thing! I can't wait to see the comics that you're making, dude. All right, so here we go, and we have very rough, very, very rough. This is just going to be a shot of the landscape. This will be kind of faded, blurry. This is just kind of working out those bits. Cool. All right, so we got that. And we're coming up at the 2-hour mark. Wow, this is taking a bit longer, but it's kind of cool, and I'm actually enjoying the conversations too. So I know it's a weird transition, but I do want to mention the Tom Jones thing too. So I sort of, because of Mars Attacks, the terrible, it's a great movie. It's very corny, based on the Topps cards that I think were art directed, I think, by Art Spiegelman, which is kind of a weird little cartoonist fact. But anyhow, so the movie by Tim Burton has like Tom Jones as a character who sings the It's Not Unusual song. And after that, I used to go to like, this is back in the era of CDs. I used to go to music stores and I would find like a bunch of Tom Jones CDs and like for like 10 cents, because most people would return them. And I used to just buy them and listen to them, ironically and unironically too, because they're just kind of corny in this like lovely, terrible way. Um, so I would, especially if I was like on my way to like a punk show or like a hardcore show, I would put those CDs on just to like be like, you guys should hear this. This is like a deep cut, and then it would be like, but da 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 da. Anyhow, sorry. Oh, cool. Discord. Okay, I gotta open up the Discord. Let me find it. Discord. I am still learning Discord, which is a strange thing to just still be learning. Okay, so let's see here. Discord. Where? Oh, is that it? Add friend. Done. Let's see here. Should I show any of this on the show? Because this is really cool. Very neat. I like the style of it too. It's very loose. I think this is a continuation after the car. How cool is that? That's very neat. Let me know if you're okay with me showing it on the stream or you want it to. Okay, cool. Hey, J something. Old BIPT listener, following up on your work. In awe of how you're zipping through this book. The rough look works. Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, I'm doing roughs. I'm working on the second book. First book's here, 2 stories, and it's a lot tighter. And then these are the roughs and thumbnails for the next book. So the finals will look more like that kind of stuff, like very tightly executed. But I'm glad, man. I'm glad you listened to BIPT. That was a fun show. Like, yeah, me and Kevin Cross back in the day used to rock it. Okay, so let me show off Jake's stuff real quick. So Jake was going to show, he dropped this in the Discord, and so I'm going to show his sneak peek. This is not my art. This is his. But this is the comic that he's working on. That's really cool, Jake. That's very rad. And I think one of these streams, it's really cool. I like the loose fluidity of the line too. It's very, very neat. That's cool. Also, if you're gonna be in a car that's like an old rad muscle car, that is the steering wheel to have. Anyhow, nice work, man. That's very inspiring. I can't wait to get to that part on mine. Like the kind of more finished stuff. But yeah, G, something. Thanks for stopping in, man. Trying to kind of get things done. It's a long road, this making comics business. So okay, here we go. We've got this. Okay, and then this is going to be a strange. Okay, here it goes. That works nicely. Okay. Ooh, okay, I have a perfect transition here, I think. Okay, this is going to be in the car. All right. So we're going to have this transition. And I'm thinking it's going to be that weird moment when you have someone kind of driving, like, um, so this is going to be just the driving, like crammed U-Haul. Maybe that's a little too tight. Okay, maybe the hands are here. Okay, and then this is going to be just that sitting back. Hmm. Kind of looking at the window sort of thing. So I think that's what I'm going to do here. Okay. Okay. Got that kind of roughed out. Yeah, great car. Yeah, I totally agree, man. Your first digital project. That's cool, Jake. You're doing it. There's a better look at it. Oh, here, let's give you a shout out on Twitter. On Jay Twister. Am I following you yet on Twitter? Let me make sure I am, dude. Right now, I'm going to Twitter to make sure I'm following you. Jay Twister. Oh, I like your icon too. That's great. Okay, well now I'm following you on Twitter, dude. All right. So, it says the car is based on a Honda Civic 1978, but with additions. And I'll stop cutting promos now, dude. It's cool. That's what this is all about. Miguel's gonna check it out too. Yeah, I mean, like, I kind of view this stream as like a place where we can all just hang out and get art done. And um, I mean, of course, I'm gonna like mention my comics and stuff like that, but I want it to be a place where all artists can kind of come in and stop in, pop in, talk about their work. Like, you know, I'm actually, I actually love that kind of thing because that's inspiring. It's fun when I'm like up at like 3 in the morning and I know I'm not alone. Like, because cartooning can be a very lonely process, and so um, as long as there's like parts that I can sort of, work on like while streaming, it's like it's nice to, it's just nice to have that uh, that companionship and camaraderie, and also the inspiration of seeing what other people are doing while we're streaming, because it's like, yeah, it's fun to like. I know when I was younger, and especially when I used to freelance from home for like 15 years, I would just hang with friends. Like I would have friends over, um, and we'd freelance like super late at night. Um, Other friends who also did freelance. And now it's like, I work in house, and then when I'm doing my work, it's like really late or early in the morning, and so it's nice to have this outlet to kind of hang out with people and sort of see what everybody's doing, get that inspiration, um, and also it's super cool because it makes you want to work. Like, for me, nothing makes me want to work on comics more than other people working on comics. I don't know if that makes sense. Um, by the way, Miguel, how you doing, man? What are you up to? All right, so we got this, and then this is going to be the sort of kid in the car looking out the window type thing. This is the weirdest shot. um, but this is why it's so good to do like tight thumbs for me, because it's like this is going to help me work out how I'm going to do this shot, you know. Um, I'm pretty excited. So it's page 97, and we'll see how that goes. Um, that's it. That's the way to do it. Hmm. Okay, shoulders. Okay, that's good. It's gonna be a. Okay, so I'm getting this sort of worked out, and then we're at the 2 hour mark, which is pretty exciting. And I'm about 2/3 of the way done. So this is going to be a good shot, though, for an establishing that I will then pull tighter on this face right there um, for the next frame. I mean, I think we've all had that like crazy driving moment. The perspective's a little weird. Like, technically, and this is where I'll probably fix this here because it's a rough. It's the beauty of a thumbnail. Um, in reality, it's going to be more like just almost like a almost like that. That's much more accurate to what the arms would be doing, which is strange, but definitely a little more accurate to that angle so that I can have the car. Yeah, it's going to be like that. I know this is not like an accurate car interior, but at least I'm kind of working it out to where when it comes to like the final, I'll have all those little details worked out. Okay, so there we go. Gonna now have that arm, and then there's gonna be kind of more of a. Also, the arm is gonna go over that. Here we go. And you know what? Um, yeah, that actually works. So okay, so there we go. Now let me get that thicker of a thing, so I'm being less precious about it. That'll at least get us a little bit closer to where we need to be. And interior shot. Do 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 do. Okay, let's add some shading. It's definitely going to be like a light from outside kind of shot. This is also becoming one of those very clearly thumbnailed pages. But it's good. It's going to give me the gist of where we are. Okay, I love that. I actually like that environment though. This is going to be just looking at rolling hills. Hopefully rolling hills that don't have a tangent. Potentially some farmyards. I'm thinking, kind of like those like crazy gates and fences. Maybe there's like a farm building here. Farm building. This will be kind of a sequence where it kind of, yeah, there we go. This is going to be like rolling hills and all that fun stuff. Let's add some shadows. Yep. That somewhat works. Now what I'm going to do is also continue this. So we're going to see the road continue under here from that previous panel. And I think from here, yep, this is going to kind of carry through just as like a little thing. Just a little visual cue, I think. I also might have that sort of continue through here. And we'll see. I mean, I might undo that choice, but for now I'm kind of digging the idea of it kind of flowing underneath it. And maybe we'll have some scenery, like a little bit more of that kind of cityscape or whatever, and a little bit of that detail, curbside or whatever. Okay. I don't know, guys. So let's see. Pardon my mistake, Josh, but I think these thumbs roughs read really well. At this current pace, you could have multiple books a year. Dude, I appreciate it, man. I am actually really excited, and I think like maybe one of these days I'll just like maybe the next book that I work on, like when I'm done with the second volume, maybe I'll do a loose book. It would be fun. Oh, sweet. And then Miguel taking off, heading to work on Staten Island Ferry, 6 a.m. Ooh, Staten Island Ferry. That's the best. I'm trying to remember. I think that's the ferry in New York, right? Dude, anyhow, whatever. I like, I was fortunate enough to go to New York for the first time, like, and in Jersey as well on business, like a couple of years back, and it was awesome. It's cool. I had to take that ferry. So anyhow, good luck, Miguel. Have a good day at work. I work on one line, and Josh plopped out 4 thumbnails and looks banging. That's awesome. All right, so I'm gonna take my 2-second break again because we're at the 2-hour mark, and I think we can make this kind of work a little better in a second. So I've got like this whole fun kind of poetic part coming up. So like these are like some of my favorites where we can start getting into like more abstract stuff. Okay. So I'm going to I'll be right back in like 2 seconds. ready to rock and roll. Got my coffee. Yeah, dude, be safe, Miguel. Anyhow, it was a cool trip. It was nice to see New York. It was my first time. And it was pretty cool. We ended up having dinner in Jersey. Like, there's like a park, and I'm so bad with locations, but it was like a park that overlooked the bay, and you could see all of Manhattan, like just straight out of like a Woody Allen film or something. It was gorgeous. And you might know what it was, Miguel, although you might already be at work, but it was this restaurant that has like a giant chess set in the like right by the water, which like then overlooks all of New York. But they had really good seafood, and I will say taxi cabs in New York are awesome, but crazy. And then in Jersey, we're just like shady as hell. um, we had a taxi cab that was just going in a circle, like, and we finally just noticed like he was just kind of doing like just tallying the time, and we're like, hey, we've passed this location like 10 times. And he's like, no, we haven't. Anyhow, but needless to say, everybody in New York, other than the taxi drivers that we experienced in Jersey, were really cool. The taxi drivers in New York were awesome. I found it weird that in New York, it seemed like all the drivers accelerate into their stops. Like, with as crazy as everybody drives in LA, it's like they drive crazy, but with like intention. And we know how to like ease into a stop, and we just do terrible things like cut people off all the time. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. At least in New York, it seemed like everybody, like when cars are slowing down, instead of slowing down, they like, if you're behind the car, you accelerate and then just slam the brakes. But anyhow, New York was gorgeous though. It was cool. And I got to go to the Statue of Liberty and stuff. It was really just like I did touristy stuff, but it was cool. It was like a very fun little, like, very brief trip where and then there's just this energy to that ferry and just the whole city. It's like you can kind of feel this energy. I wonder how things are right now with COVID, because I'm imagining like everything shut down, and so that energy, like that vibrance and electricity of that city, I just wonder if it's like still there, All right, guys, heading to the home stretch here. Last 3 panels, and then I might have time to get a little more sleep before work, because I work at 8:30 and it is 4 o'clock. All right, here we go. I'm gonna rock this business. It's gonna say, oh, okay. I actually want this to be kind of a more open panel. Okay. New thought. I was going to do an open panel, and I think this will be better served with like a half panel. It goes through here. I think that's awesome that Jay something was talking about BIPT though. That's really cool, and it's neat that there are people who are still kind of following me from those days. I used to do a podcast long ago with my buddy Kevin Cross called Big Illustration Party Time, and it was like kind of mid-career. Like, we were both kind of like quite a few years, not tons of years, maybe like 3 or 4 years into being like professional freelance illustrators and cartoonists. And so we did a podcast about it, and we were one of the first like design podcasts, and so we had a pretty big following at the time. But it's neat that there's still people who kind of are interested in us from then, because it was a long time ago, and some really loyal fans, and like people, I shouldn't even say fans, just like loyal uh, community would be a better way to put it. Like just people who like were really sincerely interested in our work and kind of built this community and stuff. It was cool. That's another reason I wanted to do these streams. Is just like I like having a community of artists and stuff to hang out with. All right, so here we go. Like I was trying to get away from this thing that you know what? This needs to be a long panel. Okay. New game. This might actually be one long panel. And I think that's going to be cool. So bear with me. Because initially I was like trying to think, how can I make this work? And I think I've got an idea. Okay. You in touch with Lucifer Storm from UK? He runs a show called I Have Issues where he interviews indie creators. No, I don't know him, and I would be happy to know him. Um, he sounds cool, and he's got a pretty rad name. I think I saw him. Did he do an interview? Was he interviewed on Marsh's channel? Because Marshall's one of those dudes. Very cool dude. I think he runs the Discord that Jake that I know that you sent me art in, and yeah, I saw him interviewed and it looks pretty cool. Is he the guy who does that like Lady Satan comic? Um, Anyhow, he seems like a cool dude. All right, so here we go, and now I'm going to do this long panel and kind of work this out. This might take a few minutes to work out. Okay. Try this again. No. I'll try this again. Okay, I'm sort of thinking out loud here, but I think the way to do this is going to be to take advantage of this kind of thing, and let's make this a dark panel because it's going to fit with what I'm saying. Yes. Okay, this is definitely the route to go. Okay, so then it's going to be, I just want to get this all blocked out, and then I'm going to draw in white, I think, over. But yeah, I should check out the I Have Issues show because that's cool. Maybe I'll hit him up and see if he wants to have me on. Who knows? Yeah, yeah, Jake, I'd be down if you want to see. I have weird hours, but I am always happy and like stoked to talk to other people about my comics and about their comics and stuff too. So yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, I think he sounds like a really cool dude. Also, being that my comic talks about issues outside of just comic book issues, it'd be kind of an interesting sort of content thing where it could be like I have issues and I have issues, which I'm sure that's the play. going on there. But yeah, he seems like a cool dude. And Marsh is another guy I know from like way back in the day during BIPT. And he was a just has always been a really cool sort of supporter and just community builder. Um, okay, so let's see here. Like, yeah, that's the way to go. This is going to be hopefully a little poetic. We'll see. Like I was trying to get away from this. So by the way, Jake, though, those that page you're working on looks great, man. Um, and I like the kind of balance you're doing of like it's a tight but loose style, and it's cool. It's got a lot of movement and action to it. I'm excited about that. This thing was beating me. And this should be kind of bold. That's another thing I like to do in comics. And you'll see that a lot in the first two stories, but it's like I like to um, use a lot of bolds in your just to emphasize certain words. Okay. So here, it's going to be an interesting thing I'm going to try to pull off here. Okay, I'm going to have it be like a whale because I mentioned Jonah. Let's see here. Okay. Just trying to find a good whale for that. Oh, that's good. Um, oh, that's perfect. Okay. So here I'm thinking I have this whale as a reference. I know this is nerdy, um, but that'll help just kind of know the structure of this thing. And then we'll see if we can kind of carve like this abstract looking thing that's a little whalish. So I'm going to have it be like, and I can kind of work out the details in a sec, but I want to have like a kind of yin and yang sort of thing going on here. Just get that silhouette worked out. Okay. No. Okay. Try number two. See here. Here's what we'll do. We're gonna have it be like a. I want it to be something where the entire chunk here up to this text. It's going to be like a scale, a play of scale. There we go. Okay. Got it worked out. Just to try to kind of work out the design here. And this is totally going to be very abstract, so I'm not trying to kind of do perfection here. But I just want to kind of work out what I'm going to do. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to do some weird stuff. This is the strangest page ever, but I think it'll be cool. So, once again, thumbnails, but this will be super fun to do. As we kind of get there. What a weird page. I was not expecting this to be what I do for this sequence, but I think it'll work really well. So we're just doing a real quick, crazy kind of Pinocchio vibe. And I want it to be more like a really creepy ass whale that kind of references a little bit of that. Not quite, right? Let's see here. We'll come back after and kind of really polish up the details. So just gonna have it kind of very abstract right now. So then I'm gonna have a little bit of this. It's always interesting working like light over dark, but I think that'll work pretty well. And these, hopefully I can do where I don't have to polish it too much. And there we go. So that kind of gave me just a rough idea of like the form I want for a very strange Jonah-ish whale dude. It's a whale dude. All right, so that's what I'm talking about. That's my whale dude. That's my whale dude. All right. It is funny though, like this whole process. One of my favorite parts about thumbnails and sort of working out these sequences is like weird moments like this where I'm kind of surprised by what I'm bringing to it, because I'm like that is not something I planned. But at least in these cases, I can kind of know a little bit of what I'm getting into. And then sometimes you don't. Like sometimes you don't know the path you're going to end up going on your pages. It's kind of nuts. Okay, so this is supposed to be very abstract, and hopefully I've remained a little abstract with it. I think I'll bring some black over it again once I have this sort of worked. But I want this part, I want it to be a little yin and yang-ish. So this part will be a tiny bit there. Voila. Okay. Got my whale dude. Let's get rid of that reference now. And my whale dude's going to be in there too. All right. So now we got a little bit of this. I want to have a little bit more to kind of make it a little more mystical and strange. There might be like a little bit of just kind of rough texture to it. All right. Now let's get black over that. Oh my goodness. Okay. Make a new layer. Save. This is going to have a little more detail on it that can kind of pull out. Okay. It would be really fun to do a comic that was totally in this like loose style where it's got a little more. And I think like when I'm done with this book, that might be something I consider for like a future book because it would be fun to do. It is kind of neat to work in like reductive and then uh, additional kind of styles where you're just kind of pulling sort of playing with some of what value can do and stuff. And usually I'm working in like these really um, tight styles with ink. And so it's like I don't get this pencily thing very often, but it's fun to do. I do like it. I do like the pull and play of that. So here we've got the strange beast. That's definitely very derivative of the Pinocchio whale for reasons of story. So look at that. Look at that awesome, awesome possumness. Is anybody following along? Am I crazy? Does this seem cool? I think it'll be cool. I think it'll work. And then I want like sort of this. Oh my goodness, gotta get it pulled up a little bit. I want this sort of to have like a little bit of a watery vibe. So it's going to have like brushed water movement. But I also want to bring back the dark here so that it kind of feels like very. Here, let's get rid of that. I want it to feel very much like kind of out of the depths of the ocean kind of thing. I also really want to highlight that yin and yang kind of vibe. So and this is going to be like a little bit cool. All right, guys. That and what a strange panel this is. I'm gonna find that. Oh my goodness. What strange things we do as artists. Mm-hmm. Let me see what I'm doing here. I love that. I do be loving that pencil overcast with the white stroke lines. Yeah, it's fun, right? My favorite Pinocchio story is how Mignola wrote out Hellboy the Midnight Circus to fit the whole story of the character. Yep. Yeah, that's the best way to rock, so let's see here. I did want, this is my weird abstract thing, but I think it's worthwhile. I just need to find, let's see here. Strange thing. And here, yep. Yep. Okay. Sorry. Find this to be, this is going to be interesting, but let's try it out. I hope this was the kind of U-Haul truck I made. Hold on. There we go. This is actually kind of fun. So this is literally going to be a U-Haul truck being chased by a whale. And this is one of the things I love about Two Stories. The first book does a lot of fun little visual explorations, deviations. So the thing I like about using the 9-panel grid is it allows for some play. You can come up with some pretty crazy stuff that works to further narratives. But like having that grid, that repetitive thing, can really help. Okay, so here we're gonna have and just doing a little side profile of the car. Again, thumbnails. All right, so then we got this going on, and we'll have this and whatever. Let's have like a little thing. We get the point. Okay. And that's going to be the U-Haul truck. It's going to have a little bit. I don't like this shadow. I actually like the idea of it being kind of almost floaty. Then maybe with a little cast shadow here. There we go. Let's erase the shadow there. Okay. Cast shadow here. And then I'm going to basically shade it a little bit. So the car is driving and it's trying to get away. And now we're going to have that beautiful yeah, and then it's going to have, I actually want the car to be smaller. I hope that doesn't mess up the vibe of this page. It's kind of fun. Yeah. Okay, that's good. That'll leave me enough space to do that last line that I'm going to do, which is in my script, where it's going to say, chasing me down. Chasing me down. And look at that. All right, let me see if I can show this off a little bit. So, okay, I have no idea why. Let me see if I can adjust this so that you guys can see it better. You see that better? All right, so that's the page. I finished it up. So, thank you guys for hanging out with me. Jake, Miguel, Jay something. I mean, yeah, like a lot of people stop by in the chats. Inkwell, Crimson Owl Comics. I mean, just Corey Kerr earlier on. So thanks to everybody who joined me in the chats. Could a mental depiction of baggage as a whale be considered a land whale? I like that. Cool. A pleasure jamming. I'm working now again. Awesome, dude. Thanks for hanging out, man. It's fun to chat with you. I'm excited to see what you make. I have finished, let's see, the thumbnails for page 97 of book 2, and now I'm going to catch a little bit of sleep before I have to go to my day job. So thanks to everybody in the chats. If you haven't yet, hit subscribe, hit like, hit that bell, and then, like I said, if you're curious what I've been working on, pick up the first book and you'll know what I'm working on the second one for. You can also read pretty much the whole of the second book on Instagram, and and then if you're subscribed and you hit that bell, it'll notify you when we're about to go live, so you can join in the chats too with me and Jake and like everybody else who comes on. And then the only other thing I'd say is, today I totally encourage people to go check out the Indie Review Show, irsagency.com, and check out our last episode where Corey Kerr and myself did a pretty cool analysis of Graham Annabelle's Further Grickle, which is one of my favorite comics, and we're reviewing comics on that and stuff like that. Okay, that'll do it, and I will see you guys probably later today. So, have a good one. Bye.